Cincinnati Bengals kept their playoff hopes alive tonight on Monday Night Football as they beat the Dallas Cowboys in exciting fashion. Now they get to travel to Nashville to take on Will Levis and the Titans in Week 15. My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and we're going to break down this Bengals-Titans Week 15 matchup. But before we do that, we are a little bit over 200 subscribers away from our year-end goal of 6,000. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment. Any help is greatly appreciated, and let us know who you think will win this game. Ryan, Bengals, they finally had a game go their way. We thought that for a split second, everybody in America thought like, oh no, a block punt is going to be how the Bengals somehow lose this game. And then a little angel came down and helped them out and made a Cowboys player really stupid. Really stupid.
The Dallas Cowboys player said, hold my beer. That's what happened.
That might be it. Yeah. That might be. Yeah, the Cowboys now have the new way to find a way to lose. So, but once again, though, too, just what an amazing night by Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And it's just crazy the seasons that they're going to have. And it's going to be remembered almost in infamy of like, hey, look at these stats and like, guess how many Super Bowl or
guess how many
what
wins
record was. Or wins that they have. And it's going to be a well below 500 team probably because his defense is atrocious. But 33 for 44 for Joe Burrow, 369 passing yards, three tutties, and a pick. Of all those stats, 14 passes went to Jamar Chase, 14 catches, I guess, probably a lot more passes. 177 yards for Chase and 2 touchdowns as well, including the game-winning one. So not a bad night, especially too with the little promo story that they did with Jamar Chase and that Bengals fan who is recovered from cancer. Pretty cool little promo night and story as well that for him to go and have the game like that, I thought was very neat, especially being a father myself. So, yes. So this team is just clicking on all cylinders, and then the Titans put up 6 points against the Jags in Week 14. So what's the difference between these two teams, you think?
Between the Titans and the Bengals?
Yeah, I'm saying that rhetorically.
Yeah, a lot. The Bengals have their offense figured out. I still feel like the Titans are kind of they're in limbo, in my opinion, of whether Will Levis is the guy or not. I think, especially with this quarterback class coming out and where they will most likely be drafting, I feel like he's definitely going to be there at least for one more year.
Yeah.
And they'll probably try to build this offensive line around him. But Cincinnati, like this offense is having a historic year. They're not the best at running the ball, but it doesn't matter. Like Joe Burrow is completing passes at such an efficient rate. These receivers are getting open so well. And they just have one of the best skill position groups, I think, or wide receiver groups in the league right now. And I'll even throw Mike Gesicki a shout out. I think he's been very underrated on the national media level. He had a bad year last year in New England, was underutilized in Miami before that. And so I think he's kind of really found an offense that he can thrive in and be like a number 3-4 target in an offense.
Yeah.
So Cincinnati, they just need to figure things out on the defensive side of the ball. Their DC is definitely going to be looking for a job at the end of the season and will be replaced. Possibly, I like Dennis Allen, the Saints former head coach, to come in there and just kind of be that. They have the personnel and they run that kind of 4-down lineman with like almost traditional like 3 true linebackers there. And that is kind of what Dennis Allen did down there in New Orleans. And so I think going forward in 2025, you get him. I think that just adds another level of mastery to the coaching that they just don't currently have. You can get a corner in the draft. You can get some defensive tackles, especially some run stuffing defensive tackles, because that's been a big bugaboo for them for the last couple seasons. So it's an interesting season for the Bengals because it's a historic offense, and it's just going to be totally never talked about again after the season because of how bad this team is as a whole.
Well, no, I think it's going to be talked about after this because it's going to be like this defense was so bad, like that it cost them so many games. Like I think they had 4 losses where they've scored 30 or more points, and like that's wild to me.
Yeah.
Because and even too, you bring out Mike Gesicki, but it's like so. Let's just look at like if they do an 11 personnel, it's like you got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Andre Yoshivas, you got Mike Gesicki, then you got Chase Brown out of the backfield. That's 5 really good pass catchers that you're going to have to go and figure out how to guard. A lot of times too, the Cowboys, they end up being like, we got to blitz because we can't cover all these guys at once, and they took guys away because they had to bring Chase Brown in the block or Mike Gesicki in the go and block, and so that's I think how effective this offense has been. I think, and they're playing extremely great. Likely though, I think this defense though is, and they played well tonight, all things considered, against Cooper Rush, like in a pretty poor offense in Dallas Cowboys. Like they have CD Lamb, but that's kind of about it. Even though, and then they gave up. Show you how bad this defense is, though. Rico Dowdle had 131 yards in this game. I think the Cowboys' offense. I haven't put the stats in yet for this game, but the Cowboys are the 31st ranked rushing offense when it comes to offensive, just the yards per game at 85. So like Rico Dowdle did more than that, and I think they had 156 total yards on the night. So that's like it even bringing up to like the run stuffing defense tackle that they desperately need. I think that would add a lot to this defensive line. But Tennessee, though, ironically though, they actually have when it comes to yards per game, the second best defense when it comes to yards per game. First overall passing yards per game, 13th in rushing yards allowed per game. It's like kind of ironic too, because they've been in some like blowout losses as well. But that also being said, though, too, they still have some stout guys, I think, on that defense side of the ball. Still a lot of those Mike Vrabel guys that can still play. I think that keeps them in a lot of these games. So that I think is just going to be a really fun matchup in general to watch. Is you have one of the best offenses in the league go up against one of the better defenses in the league. Then you have one of the worst offenses in the league, and the Tennessee Titans go up against one of the worst defenses in the league. So it makes it actually kind of an intriguing matchup. It's kind of like the opposite between like stuck in a rock and a hard place. It's like between like a rock and I guess an inflatable bounce house. That's what it seems like. It just because it's. I think there's a lot of good things about this Titans team. I think they should stick it out with Will Levis. One, to the point that you made earlier, is this is not the quarterback class. I think that you want to be bringing a guy in. But I also think too, though, and it's more kind of my mindset is like, if you are going to move on from a guy and bring a young guy in, and we've seen this now with a lot of guys, have a good organizational setup ready for this young guy to come in to try and thrive and be successful. So like try and keep building that offensive line, go and get some more weapons here as well. Nick Westbrook, Akine, and Will Levis have scored a lot of touchdowns since their bye week as well. Calvin Ridley is still a veteran receiver who's doing fine. Tony Pollard, veteran running back who's doing fine. So like keep trying to improve in the skill position players as well during this time. I think keep riding out with Will Levis. I think there is some good things there. Let's just see how he just needs to keep developing. So, but that I think is going to be it's going to be a much more interesting matchup than I think initially kind of like just if you look at it on paper, especially after like how well this Cincinnati offense is. But kind of with that being said, though, I do think the Bengals are going to pull this one out. I think their offense is going to be too much. I do think Trey Hendrickson is going to cause a havoc, I think, for Will Levis, just enough to slow things down for this team. And I think just as of right now, I think Tennessee is just not going to be able to put up 20 points. And I think Cincinnati Bengals are going to put up 21 points or more against this team.
I'll push back on that a little bit. I do think this Titans running game, Tony Pollard is having a good year, and I think that this could cause some fits for this Bengals defense just as a whole. And Calvin Ridley also having a good year, has about 740 rushing or receiving yards. Only 3 touchdowns, but he's never been a big receiving touchdowns guy. He's been definitely more like yardage kind of receiver. Where like Tony Pollard's on pace to have 1,000-yard season. This is a stat from a few weeks ago, so correct me if I'm wrong. But he leads the league in yards after contact. And I think that's going to be a really big thing here, is because even if this offensive line can't block it, I still feel like he's going to be able to break tackles. And with a lot of the injuries and stuff on the Bengals side of the ball, I think it's going to be tough for them to really slow down that run game. So I'm also going to go with the Bengals. I just think it's going to be closer. I'm going to say 27-24.
Okay, I like it.
I think it'll be a closer game than people realize. So
I like it. I think that the Titans are going to get their shot. Yes, or their licks in this matchup. But I think it's going to be more like 28-17 Cincinnati. I just think it's just going to be too much. And with how much this offense has been clicking this entire season, I think it's going to go go that route. Maybe it's close early, but then the Bengals pull away towards the end.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. So let's go ahead. Let's wrap this one up here. We are both taking the Cincinnati Bengals. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, go ahead and leave a comment on who you think is going to come out ahead in this Week 15 matchup. Will it be the Cincinnati Bengals? Will it be the Tennessee Titans? Other than that, we'll see you guys next time.